In this video, I'll show you how to browse source code using Eclipse, and we'll use the FreeCall codebase when we navigate among different classes. So, first, some notes about conventions. You've probably already seen in other Java projects that directory structures match package names, and that's mandatory in Java. Now, we also have the convention that every project contains a folder for source code and optionally other folders for configuration information or data files, documentation, and other such files. We also have a source folder specifically for tests. In this case, it's located under the folder test, where there's a source folder for all our test classes. By convention, they're named the same way as the classes in the main codebase that they test. So we have packages, netsf freecall common IO for instance, and there is a netsf freecall common IO class in the main source folder. If we go to any of these packages for tests, we can see that there is a class called AI Colony Test, which then tests functionality in AI Colony located in this package. So much about conventions. How about some tools we can use? If we go to one of the classes here, never mind the color coding, by the way, that has to do with the functionality for inspecting what code has been exercised the last time we executed tests or run the program. It's called code coverage. It's very useful in the second lab, where we look into how to extend existing tests and how design of the application affects our ability to do so. But for now, we'll just look at how to browse this code. So we see that there's a class that extends a subclass and it implements an interface. In order to understand what other settlements or namables are there, we can right-click, open the type hierarchy, or press F4. So pressing F4 brings up a view to the left where we see that the colony is a settlement, is a goods location, is a unit location, and so forth. A rather long inheritance chain. We can also see that nameable things occur here, but we only see ancestors to the currently selected class, colony. We might want to be interested in, are there subclasses? Yes, there is. There's a subclass as well. Okay, but if we use this view, are there other settlements? Maybe we can see if there are other settlements than the currently selected one. So if we like this, press F4 again. On settlement, we see that there's a colony and an Indian settlement type, and then there is a server Indian settlement subclass. Okay, but if we go back to our colony, we go to there, and now we look at the nameable interface. Are there others who implement nameable? So let's say we focus on nameable. There are no super interfaces to nameable, but how about sub interfaces or implementing classes? We have 4 implementing classes: colony, player, region, and unit. They are all nameable, and they have their descendants as well. So here is a neat way of understanding what's the relationship between the class colony and other classes. Are there others that implement the same interface as colony does? Are there others that extend the same base class as colony does? And so forth. So much about navigating hierarchies. Of course, there's a lot of methods in this class, and some of them are protected methods or fields. Some are private, and some are public. So the color coding here red means private, yellow means protected, green public. And the symbols denote if they're methods or fields. Okay, so the production cache, it's well, actually I have no idea why that's not the same symbol, but we have different symbols for and colors for private methods and public methods. So green, circle, public. Here we have a little triangle that tells us this overrides an existing method, possibly an existing implementation or from some kind of an interface. So overrides add goods in goods location. Okay, so somewhere in the hierarchy of classes and interfaces above current class colony, there is something called goods location. Right, but where is this used? So then we can use the open call hierarchy, Control Option H, or similar. And after a little while, we see that, oh, this seems to be a fairly important method. It's used in a lot of tests. All the methods prefixed by test are located in our test classes. But we also have in-game uses. CS remove equipment, CS new turn, CS improve tile, and all those. And we can also expand, so we see, okay, so the call to add goods from add liberty came from action performed, came from something. A debug menu, possibly. But this is a useful way. We can double click here, so we end up at a specific location in the method called csadd founding father. Maybe we can go there, so we get to the method signature and its documentation. Red here means this code has not been tested by any of the tests that were run the previous run we did. Okay, so we can navigate the runtime structure, that is the call hierarchy. We can navigate in the compile time structure, the class hierarchy, and yes, those are the two main methods for browsing and understanding relationships between different elements in our source code. On a final note, we also have as an option in Eclipse so let's see, class diagram, yes. If you choose to add the object aid plugin in Eclipse. We can also create class diagrams for a lot of things, relationships and attributes, for a given set of classes. I'll show you how. Let's call this overview. And let's say we want to know the relationships between server colony, something like that. We draw them in. You see that the transaction so let's see if we can, of the classes we marked, these are the relationships. So the transaction section seems to be a base class for demand session, trade session, and diplomacy session. And transaction session also contains a reference to transaction sessions. However, there's no relationship between server colony and server building, so we could delete this from this diagram. They're not deleted as classes, but from this diagram. We can also select the level of detail we have in this diagram. And this might be useful for drawing graphical pictures, but it soon becomes rather crowded. And also, it's an optional install. You can do it as regular users. You don't need admin privileges, but it's not part of our default installation of Eclipse.